Hi, everyone. We're going to go through some vocab you should know. So we're going to cover about 7 or 8 vocab words that you will recognize from Story of an Hour by Kate Chopin. And as we go through this, you're going to see the definition, some synonyms, but then I'm going to talk about a little bit of the etymology of the word, some sentences, so you can hear what the word sounds like in a sentence, and just some fun things about the word. So hopefully that'll help you learn a little bit about the word and hopefully remember it. So let's just get started. The first word is hasten. The verb hasten means to move at a high speed, to move quickly. So if you hasten to your room, no one will know that you came late. Hasten comes from the word haste, which means excessive speed or urgency. The words hurry or hasten are some of the synonyms you might recognize. Hasten can also mean to make happen quickly, like when you open a window in the kitchen when you're cooking so that you can hasten the room to cool down or to get the smoke out the window if you've burned something on the stove like I do. Hasten can also mean to just be quick, like when you hasten to tell everyone a rumor that you heard in the hallway that you know isn't true. You shouldn't do that, by the way. So I've listed some of those examples of synonyms and antonyms. So the opposite word for hasten would be to dawdle or to linger. You might hear examples in the newspaper like, but as many will hasten to emphasize, it is not just the big elections that matter. Your local elections matter as well. So that is hasten. Next, we have forestall. Forestall means to stop something from happening. It takes a bit of planning to forestall something. To forestall the effects of aging, you need to exercise, drink a lot of water, take care of your health all of your life. Maybe put on some retinol cream, wear sunscreen, things like that. You can actually break this word down into parts to figure out what it means. So you look at the prefix for, F-O-R-E, and it's one of the words you might see at the beginning of other words, like forewarn, which means to warn in advance. You might know the word stall, which means to delay. So if you put it together, forestall, it means to stall in advance. Or to put it another way, it means to try to prevent or put off something that you don't want to happen. We'll move on to our next word, which is repress. To repress something is to press it down where it can't be seen, heard, or even recognized. So whether you're repressing a feeling, an idea, or even a revolution, viva la resistance for you Les Miserables fans, you're going to be taking advantage of the press in the word repress. So remember, to repress something is to press it down. Psychologists a lot of times try to help people recover memories that they've repressed so that they can feel free of them once they've kind of remembered them and they can let them go. But what makes repress different from just the word press is that repress is almost always used when you're talking about an idea or a concept, something intangible that you can't touch. So in other words, you repress your emotions. You don't repress olives to get olive oil. You can repress someone or a group by intimidating them, like repressing protesters by sending cops out, things like that. So our next word is going to be elusive. Elusive just simply means these are things that are elusive are hard to find, pin down, remember. They oftentimes just slip right out of your grasp. So think of this kind of an example. If you've ever tried to catch a rat or a mouse, it's not easy because rats and mice are often quick and elusive. They're very tough to catch. Rabbits are quick. They're elusive. But it doesn't have to be something tangible either, something you can touch, because it can also be an idea or a thought, something that's difficult or tough to understand or describe. are elusive too. Concepts like love and beauty are elusive. If you've had an idea and then forgot it, that idea is elusive. It slipped away. So anything you can't get a hold of, either with your hands or with your brain, is elusive. Now, you do have to be careful here because there is a word that sounds similar. It's a homonym. So we have this word elusive, and then there's also elusive with an I. An elusive with an E is something that you can't catch, but an illusive something is something that was never there at all, an illusion, okay? So for example, an elusive fairy is one you can't catch. An elusive fairy, with an I, is one that was never there at all. It was a figment of your imagination. Okay, let's move on to our next word, tumultuous. This is a mouthful, right? Tumultuous is an adjective that can mean disruptive, troubled, disorderly, turbulent. You oftentimes hear this word in newspapers or news stories about riots because it's one of the best words to describe a group of people that are in turmoil or disorderly. But it can just mean anything that's in a state of unrest. So, for example, you might steer your boat into a harbor, a safe harbor, before a really big storm comes in, so that the tumultuous waves don't sweep you into the rocks. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a group of people that are tumultuous. It can be anything that is disorderly or disruptive or troubling that are tumultuous. For example, your feelings can be described as tumultuous if they kind of feel all over the place. If you're very moody, you might have tumultuous feelings. Our next word is exalted. Exalted is an adjective used to describe something or someone that's raised in rank, value, or power. So an exalted queen would enjoy a regular procession in her honor and be sent gifts from foreign lands. She's being held up to a certain standard. People even go as far to stand up and cheer for her, which is where then our usage of it in the story of an hour comes from. There's an old-fashioned meaning of the word, meaning in a state of extreme happiness. When people would see a king or a queen or someone of high value or power, they would cheer for them. They would exalt them. And so that's where the even old-fashioned meaning of it in a state of extreme happiness would come from. And so in the story of an hour, it's used in that way. But its dictionary definition is technically to describe someone or something as being raised up in value or rank or power, to exalt someone. It goes back to the Latin word exaltere, ex meaning up, altus meaning high, up high. So you may not have an exalted position at school, but you'll always have an exalted role in your family where you're, maybe your humor or your up for everything attitude brings your siblings together. Your family's always going to be the one to cheer you on. They're going to exalt you at maybe a game that you play in or a band concert that you're in. They're going to exalt you. So that is exalted. The next word is save. The only reason I'm bringing this one into the vocab you should know for this week is because it's an unusual usage of the word in the story. The way that it's used in Story of an Hour is the formal usage of the word save, and it's not often used, but you will come across it. So I wanted to go over it with you. It is a formal way of saying but or except. So this is how it's used in Story of an Hour. The face that had never looked save with love upon her. So it really means the face that had never looked but with love upon her. So he had only looked at her with love. So we might say all save one had turned in their homework. All but one had turned in their homework. We don't use this often anymore because it's just not a natural way of speaking or writing. But people used to say that more often a long time ago. And so every once in a while you'll run across it in a story that was written, 50 or so years past. But I wanted to make sure to bring it up to you so that if you do see it again in another story, you aren't confused. And our last word is importunity. Importunity is when you beg someone to do something. So you might say, please, please take me to the mall. And a lot of times you'd say that with importunity to someone. The adjective is importunate. That's how you'd say it as an adjective, importunate. And it really just describes a plea that's so persistent, so demanding that it becomes annoying, becomes a whine. Most people use this as the noun, importunity, to describe an example of that kind of pleading. So you may ask for a bite of your friend's burger with importunity, moaning, and whining about how starving you are and how delicious the burger looks. And so I highly recommend that you use this as a noun because it tends to be redundant if you use it as an adjective, because you'd say the importunate whine. Wine is already importunate, it seems redundant. But at any rate, it has, your synonyms like urging and urgency. So that pretty much covers our vocab you should know for this week. You want to make sure that you review these terms, and we will move on to our activity linked on our weekly planner.